fourth time. Yes, this is the fourth time I'm recording this video. Obviously, from the title, it's a theory video. And as I stated in my last video that I wasn't good at planning these sorts of videos, I'm not. The last three attempts, I've been extremely rambly, and I haven't been able to clearly state my points. I've been trying and trying and trying. Anyway, this is a theory, a Naruto theory about Kekkei Genkai. From what I personally see in the series, there are two different types of Kekkei Genkai. The first is the one that actually follows I'm going to refer to it as the Kekkei Genkai rule, where it's an inherited bloodline trait. The only way you can have it is by being born into the family that carries it. Examples are the Sharingan, Kimimaru's weird bone one, the Byakugan, etc. The second type are what I'm going to call Kekkei Genkai styles. The explanation of these is that they are a combination of two different styles that can only be achieved by having an affinity for both. Normally, a ninja would only have an affinity for one. The first example seen is Haku's ice style, which, while it wasn't explained, is a combination between wind and water chakra nature transformations. Now, at the time, since that part wasn't explained, it did seem like it was just a power that he had, and it was called a Kekkei Genkai, and everyone was, it's all good. It's just, he can control ice. There's no combination going on. Then they introduced wood style, which when we met Captain Yamato, and when Naruto was practicing wind style, when we met Captain Yamato, and he had wood style, it was explained at some point that his wood style is a combination between earth and water. Now, that would mean he has an affinity for earth and water. The only reason I say this has to mean he has an affinity for both is because just simply possessing both chakra natures, because you don't have to have an affinity to learn these chakra natures, simply possessing both does not give you the ability to copy them, because Kakashi cannot copy these Kekkei Genkai styles. He can't, despite the fact he knows how to control all 5 chakra natures, he cannot combine any of them into these new styles. So you have to have an affinity for these styles. Like I said earlier, you're only supposed to be born with 1, but these people who can do this are born with 2, or, under Yamato's condition, he has cells implanted in him of the first Hokage who could naturally use these two styles. Combine these two styles, rather. But, if they left it at that, it'd be all well and good. But, we have seen people who have absolutely no relation who can use these Kekkei Genkai styles. The two examples that come to mind are Lava Style, which, if I remember right, there's 3 people who can use it who have no relation. Mai, the 4th Mizukage, the granddaughter of the 3rd Tsuchikage, Kurotsuchi, I believe her name is, and Roshi, the Jinchuriki of the Four Tails. The second one that comes to mind is Magnet Style. The 3rd Kazekage and the 4th Kazekage can both use these despite them not being related. And the 3 people who can use Lava Style are not related. Now, my theory is that these styles, and more specifically, having an affinity for 2 chakra natures is a genetic mutation. Now, I think, under the theory, chakra natures are passed down through genetics. I think the thing that backs this up is, I'm going to use one example, the Uchiha clan. Most of the Uchiha clan are born with an affinity for fire, born with an affinity for fire, fire chakra nature transformation, which to me makes it seem like this is being passed down through their genetics, and because obviously they're not inbreeding, you will get the odd Uchiha such as Sasuke, who does not have an affinity for fire, has an affinity for something else. But regardless, chakra affinity, having an affinity for a certain nature is passed down through genetics. That will heavily influence which one you have. However, if you have this genetic mutation, you will be born with an affinity for two chakra nature styles, and because you have an affinity for them, you will also be able to combine them into the new styles. Now, the reason I think that in-universe they're called Kekkei Genkai, despite not actually being passed down through blood, despite them being a mutation that anyone has the potential of developing, well, obviously developing when they're born, they can't develop it later in life, but the reason I think these are labelled as Kekkei Genkai is because through mating, these people who have this mutation would then pass it down to their kids, and then their kids would pass it on, until eventually you have a clan. I'll use Haku as an example. You have an entire clan who have a higher than normal chance of producing someone not only with this genetic mutation, but specifically with those two styles, which would make it seem like it's a Kekkei Genkai power, which is why it would be mislabeled in-universe. Now, I feel like the Kekkei Tota can also come into this, because having the unknown Kekkei Tota being particle style, it's a mixture of three chakra natures. Under this theory, that would just mean he has an even rarer genetic mutation, which allows him to have an affinity for three different styles, and that would be much more difficult to combine. This also would explain why Onoki said that he learned how to use particle style from Mu. They're the only two people who can use it. Onoki has no relation to Mu, he just said that Mu taught him. Under this theory, while it would be highly coincidental, it would mean that Mu was born with this super rare genetic mutation and has an affinity for fire, earth, wind, and then realized and eventually learned that he could combine all three. He then met Onoki, and Onoki just so happened to have this mutation and have the same three styles. Since it wouldn't come as naturally to combine these three styles, combining just two, Onoki then learned from Mu, then taught Onoki how to combine these three styles properly and how to use it, and thus that would explain why he said he learned it from Mu, not inherited it from Mu. Of course, under this theory, that would mean that since he has an affinity for three different chakra natures, he could combine any two of them he wanted in order to make a Kekkei Genkai style, which I believe, since his granddaughter can use lava style, which is a combination of fire and earth, that gives a little more credence to it, because that would imply that he can also use lava style under it being inherited and all that stuff. This is where I always start to ramble in the attempts. Now, that would also mean that Mai, who actually has two different Kekkei Genkai styles, both involving fire though, she has two different Kekkei Genkai styles. Lava and vapor. That would be fire and earth, and fire and water. Under this theory, she would, if she took the time to learn how, she could potentially combine all three into a new Kekkei Tota, which would be insanely powerful. She would also be able to combine earth and water, just as Onoki could be able to combine any two of his styles. Now, I think this theory fairly realistically explains how people with no relation could use the exact same Kekkei Genkai. The fact that it's just been mislabeled as Kekkei Genkai, and the label's just stuck. Now, it explains like minor things throughout the series, and I don't see there really being any sort of kink in the theory. Like, when I say multiple things, it explains how people in no relation can use the same Kekkei Genkai, and it explains how Onuki said that he learned from Mu, which means, because he did learn from Mu, he didn't inherit it, he just happened to have the same mutation and same styles. Anyway, I'm going to stop before I start rambling. I feel like I've explained everything I need to explain now, and I want your guys' feedback. Do you think this theory is good? Do you think it's plausible? Do you think this could actually be the explanation? I just want a little bit of feedback. Just leave it in the comments and tell me what you think. Call me an idiot if you like, if you don't think this is plausible. Personally, I think this fairly well explains, the Kekkei Genkai style thing and all sorts. No more confusing headaches for Nathan trying to rack, how is this person related to this person? I'm joking, of course, I never did that, but I did rack my brain on this theory quite a bit. I just want to know what you guys think. Bye, guys.